Hi, I'm Felicia Welstead, CEO of Life's Little Treasures Foundation, and I welcome you today to our World Prematurity Day event. I'm joined today by Karen Peters, who is our Products and Services Manager. Hi, Karen.
Hi, Felicia.
And we're going to be bringing you this special event. Thank you everyone for taking the time out today to join us. Today on World Prematurity Day, we gather to help raise awareness of prematurity and the impact on families. We're going to hear from three of our community members, a mum, a dad, and a health professional, who will share their stories and experiences so we can better understand this complex journey for families. Before we hear from our speakers, I'd like to introduce Chris Mannix, who's the chair of the Life's Little Treasures Foundation Board, who's going to commence with an acknowledgement of country. Take it away, Chris.
Great. Thanks, Felicia. And I'm joining you from Wurundjeri country on the land of the Kulin Nation. I just want to take a minute to begin today by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land in which we meet, in your home and in ours. And I also want to pay my respects to elders past and present. Before we hear from our speakers, I really need to take some time to welcome some of our partners and foundation supporters that are joining us today. I'm going to read from the list because I do not want to miss a single person. First of all, the team from Baby Bunting, including CEO and Managing Director Matt Spencer and Sue Dawson, who's General Manager of Marketing. I want to say a personal hello to all the people who helped me in the stores, and Chadstone is at my normal store that I go to. Every time I've needed to buy a baby present at the last minute in a complete kerfuffle. So thank you for the personal support as well as the company support that we receive from you. Welcome to Britax Safe and Sound's General Manager Dirk Voller, who's joining us with Marketing Manager Narelle Miller. Welcome to the team from Medela, including Managing Director Jarrod Percy and Senior Marketing Manager Margarita Magdalenos. I also believe we've got someone who's joining us from the company from Switzerland. Thank you so much for making the time to join us today. Welcome to our new friends in New Zealand from Haka, including owner Xingting Zan and General Manager Joy Cow. I know that this is possibly the second event that you've joined us for, and we're so pleased to have you on board. We've got a large number of health professionals that are making the time to join us today, and they're from the 149 hospitals that we work with across Australia as a national team. So welcome. We also have staff, volunteers, representative members from our families, as well as my fellow board members. So on behalf of the board, I'd really like to thank you all for joining us and welcome. Before I hand back to Felicia, let's just have a look at a short video that we've put together featuring members from our community who are expressing exactly what World Prematurity Day means to them.
Hiya, it's Emily from Haka here. As a brand, World Prematurity Day is a day that's really close to our hearts. Many of our customers and even some of our team members know how it feels to be on that journey of having a sick or premature little one. That's why we are so incredibly proud and honoured to partner with Life's Little Treasures Foundation and support them on all the incredible work they do around Australia to support families on similar journeys while raising awareness about prematurity.
My name is Jarrod Percy, and together with the team at British Safe and Sound and Steelcraft, we're very proud and honoured to support Life's Little Treasure Foundation with a very worthy cause. Particularly today on World Prematurity Day, I think it's a great time to reflect and continue to pledge our support and to continue to develop products and solutions for parents that will help them on their journey.
World Prematurity Day is an important day for my family. It's a time we reflect on the many months spent sitting cotside in the NICU with Jasmine and just how lucky we are to now be able to celebrate all that Jasmine has since achieved.
On World Prematurity Day,
we thank the doctors and nurses.
we are reminded of our family's journey, and we pray for all of the families and babies currently going on their own journey.
To me, World Prematurity Day means celebration, recognition and remembrance. We celebrate the wins of our little ones who had a tough start in life. We recognise the challenges our families face, and we remember the little ones born too early that couldn't stay.
World Prematurity Day reminds us of how strong and resilient prem bubbers and their beautiful families are, and how blessed we are to have these little ones in our lives every single day. Mwah.
It is so nice to hear from our community members, including some of our partners and staff in that video. Thank you, Chris, for your part in today's event. To mark this special day, Life's Little Treasures Foundation has a number of events and activities in motion. Tonight, the Balti Bridge in Melbourne will be lit up purple to commemorate World Prematurity Day. We have 138 members of Parliament in Victoria who will receive this morning a World Prematurity Day lapel pin and will be asked to wear it. It's actually a sitting day in Victoria today, so that'll be fantastic. We've also asked them to post a selfie to help raise awareness of prematurity. Our NICU units around Australia have also received a large tin of chocolates and boxes of tea bags so health professionals can enjoy morning tea, and also as a way for us to thank them for their hard work and dedication to our families. I'm now going to hand over to you, Karen, who will introduce our first speaker for today.
Thanks, Felicia. It's wonderful to be part of this very special event. Today, on World Prematurity Day, we aim to raise awareness and improve understanding of the challenges faced by families with babies born too soon. Today, I'm delighted to introduce you to 3 speakers who have generously agreed to share their stories with us. So to begin, I'd love to welcome our first guest speaker, Michelle Worthington. Michelle is an internationally published award-winning author of empowering picture books for children and a mum to 3 premature babies. Michelle is also the ambassador for the Life's Little Treasures and NICAP Little Readers Readathon, and she's passionate about encouraging a strong love of reading and writing in young children. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Michelle, as a mum of 3 premature babies, you can really talk to the challenges faced by parents of babies born too early. We'd love to start today by talking about your experience with Tom, who was born early at 28 weeks.
Yeah, it was a real shock, even though I'd had 2 previous preemie babies. Jordan was born at 32 weeks and Cody was born at 33 weeks and 3 days. Every day counts.
Certainly does.
Yeah, having a 28-weeker was something that I wasn't prepared for.
So tell me a little bit more about that.
So I always knew that I was high risk, having 2 previous preemie babies, and I thought I'd done everything right. Like I was still working, though. That was probably the only thing, but you know, you have to work. I had 2 other kids to run around after, and where I can remember going to the appointment with my husband and the doctor doing an ultrasound going, that foot shouldn't be there. And I'm like, okay, so he's going to kick his way out if you're not careful. So they gave me half a day's notice. So I had that appointment at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They wanted me to go to hospital that night, but I said, I have got 2 other kids that I need to manage. So they said, all right, go home, get sorted, and then come into hospital first thing in the morning. So I was admitted at 26 weeks and full bed rest, and I managed to keep him in to 28 weeks and 1 day.
As you say, every day counts. So how long was Tom in hospital for?
So he was in intensive care for, there's all different levels of intensive care, but really scary intensive care. He was there for just over a month, where he was highly sedated and he wasn't breathing on his own. So they managed to get him off the sedation, but he still was intubated for 4 weeks after birth. Then he moved from the intensive care unit to special care unit at the same hospital, had to go back and then back to special care. And then that was probably around the 8-week mark that he was starting to come pretty good. After that, we were allowed to go to a hospital closer to home because it was a hour trip there and back, like hour there, hour back. So we were allowed to go to a special care nursery closer to home, and he was there for another 4 weeks.
Yeah, such a long time for you to be juggling everything as well as a little one sick in hospital. We hear so often that parents are really affected emotionally through the experience. How did that go for you?
I think I thought that I would handle it better because I'd been through it before. But what actually happened was that I felt like such a failure the third time over that I was a mess. I was just like, you had the opportunity to do this right and you still didn't do it right. Like, it was such a sense of failure for me that I should have known better almost. So I was very lucky that I had a very supportive husband. Tom is my son to my second husband. And I almost knew that I needed to be strong because this was his first experience of what having a baby, and his only experience of what having a baby was like. So I knew that I had to be the one who showed him how to manage my feelings, even though inside I was probably not coping as well as what I was letting on. But I knew that there were little things that we could do that would almost be like little touch points in the day. So because he couldn't come up till after work, I would always drop the kids at school, and then I would go into the hospital and I would stay there. And at lunchtime, my dad was come up. So the touch points of the school was drop the kids off. My dad would come up for lunch. My husband would be there after lunch. He would stay with me and we would go home for dinner. But before we went home for dinner, we went to the same lolly machine just at the exit of and we would treat ourselves. Like, that was our thing. So it's funny, the little the routines and the things that you hold on to as touch points to get you through the day. And we always looked at it as a day-by-day basis, especially when he was really, really sick, because we just didn't know what to expect from day to day. So having the opportunity to go day by day, and also knowing that there was other people supporting me, that was really huge, because I think when I did it the first time over, it was just me and I didn't ask for help. But the third time around, I knew enough to be able to ask for help, and still made me feel super guilty, but I knew that I couldn't do it all by myself. So that was another touch point that I had, that I knew that there were certain people I could reach out to if I needed something.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Hearing your story just highlights so many of the feelings and the challenges faced by our families in the community. What about the families that are currently in hospital? Do you have any words of wisdom to help them get through their baby stay in hospital?
I wish I had a magic spell or something that would make it all better. And I'm not sure if I have words of wisdom, but I have words of experience. And that's really that you need to make sure that this is a time that you know will pass. So this experience that you're having with your baby is not how it's always going to be. You're not always going to feel like you don't know what you're doing. You're not always going to feel like you're not in control, and you're not always going to feel like you're doing something wrong. It's simply a period of time at the beginning of Bub's life that will make you stronger as a mum and as a woman. And it'll also make you realize just how precious our babies are, but also how tough they are as well. Never underestimate how tough a preemie baby is.
Yeah, they're true little fighters, aren't they?
Yeah.
Such great advice, and no doubt our families can take away some of those suggestions there. Michelle, what would you like the community to know about prematurity, and how can they better support these families currently in hospital?
I think it's not talked about enough in the general community. I don't think there's enough media, I guess. Media tends to do it for feel-good stories. They tend to feature on preemie babies as that very last news story right at the end, which is a fluffy kind of feel-good story. But for parents going through it, it's not a fluffy feel-good story. It's something that has huge repercussions on mental health for parents, post and prenatal depression, on economic factors when you can't work because you've got a baby in hospital for 3 months. So I'd really love us as a community to not be scared to talk about our experience, about the bad stuff, as well as the happy, fluffy stuff, and make it more of a general conversation around this is the experience of 1 in 20 Australian families. This is not something that happens to a very small portion. There's a lot of us who have been through this, and I want that to be something that's not just a feel-good story. I want it to be something that's made aware of, so that people feel like they can reach out and get support and help when they need it.
So important, and hopefully today is just the start of that conversation. Thank you so much, Michelle, for your time today. It's been such a pleasure hearing your story and your thoughts.
Thank you so much for having me.
Next, I'm delighted to introduce you to Aaron Pillar. Aaron spent 10 years in the Royal Australian Navy before becoming a full-time stay-at-home dad to Charlotte, born prematurely at 25 weeks and 872 grams. His experience with Charlotte was extremely difficult, as she was born last year during COVID, which created extra challenges for him and his family. Recently, Aaron has joined the Life's Little Treasures team as a parent volunteer and will help to facilitate a new support group for dads. He's passionate about raising awareness around the impact of having a premature baby and how important it is to not only look after mum's mental health, but dads as well. Welcome, Aaron. I'm so thrilled to have you here as part of today's event. So let's start by sharing your experience with Charlotte, who was just born at 25 weeks and 872 grams.
Yeah, so my wife went into, she was suffering some pains late one night, Saturday night. And as a result, we took her to the Frankston Hospital because things didn't seem quite right. And that's when we were told or informed while we were there that she was 4 centimetres dilated. And we were quickly rushed over to the Monash Hospital due to having a specialist ward there, the NICU. So Charlotte was born later Sunday afternoon, and was quickly rushed over to the Monash Children's, which is just next door, which I followed her over to the NICU. And she was straight away worked on. Her breathing was all good, just making sure that she had IVs and all that sort of stuff done. And there was just a team of people over the top of her, and I was just standing in the corner, kind of a deer in the headlights. So yes.
Really difficult time for you. And how long was Charlotte in hospital for?
She was in hospital for 94 days at Monash, and that consisted of majority in the NICU, and we graduated over to special care, which is a little bit of the next step down from NICU. So it's still quite an intensive ward, but a little bit lower care than what the NICU is.
And were you able to spend much of that time together, or how did that work?
No, so due to COVID restrictions, Jess and I, or Monash had a restriction that Jess and I weren't allowed in the room at the same time. It was only one parent at a time. So for a good 2 months, it was either just one of us in the room with Charlotte. And then on top of that, Jess was staying at Ronald McDonald next door to Monash to be close to Charlotte. And they also had a rule that I wasn't allowed to be there due to the COVID restrictions. So I was down at the Mornington Peninsula at our house, keeping the house running essentially. So Jess and I spent 88 days apart. And I think the end of that second month, we were finally allowed to be in the room together with Charlotte. So that was interesting.
That must have been such a difficult time for you both. We hear so often from our parents that they're really affected by the experience emotionally, and it can really impact their mental health. How did that affect you and Jess?
I won't say luckily, but Jess and I are pretty well versed in the mental health scenario now. I was medically discharged out of the Navy due to my mental health, so we already had some pretty good tools to assist us with our mental health. Very important just to be open and upfront with each other, talk with each other, let each other know that, I'm struggling today, or vice versa. So there were days I couldn't go into hospital due to my anxiety being quite high, and Jess would take up the slack and the extra responsibility, and vice versa. When she had a bad day, I would go in and take up the be there for the cares and for the rounds and all that sort of stuff. So at the end of the day, you're a team. So the more upfront you are with each other, somewhat it's going to be easier.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, Aaron. I think it will mean so much for the dads currently in hospital to hear your experience and help to normalise, all the emotions that they're going through currently. You've recently joined Life's Little Treasures as a dad volunteer to help us run our dad support group, and we're really excited to have you on board. Why do you think it's so important that we have support services just for dads?
Well, there's no denying a male is a different species in terms of a tough nut to crack. And so I think having a specialist approach towards the dad, to be able to sort of assist them. In my eyes, the male or dad has a lot more on their, or not a lot more, but has more to think about, I suppose, because not only are we worrying about our child that's in hospital, but we're also worried about how our wife or partner's coping. If you've got other children, making sure that they're going to school and getting their extra love as well. And then, running the household and going to work and all that sort of stuff. So I think it's just a different perspective as opposed to the mums. And, males don't really respond too well to a clinical sort of environment. So I think having a specialist group for a dad is much needed.
Yeah, thank you so much for being part of this. We're really, really excited to get it off the ground. So today on World Prematurity Day, what would you like the broader community to know about prematurity, and how can we better support families going through the experience?
Prematurity is obviously, I never knew about prematurity. I didn't have any awareness about prematurity up until the fact I had one myself. I had my daughter. It's a different kettle of fish. It's not the same as having a newborn. You don't get to go home in a few days with your newborn, and even when you do get to come home, you might have long-term health implications, ongoing medical appointments and all that sort of stuff. I think it's really important. You don't sit there and say to the mum, "Oh, you're so lucky you didn't have to have birth to a full growth baby," or "Oh, you're so lucky your baby's in hospital being looked after. You can get a couple of months of full night's sleep." That's just not the case at all. I think just be very mindful of how you speak to a parent of a premature baby, because in our circumstance, it was 3 months of very, very little sleep, up and down emotions and roller coasters. So, just be mindful what you say. Whilst we are still very happy that we've obviously got a child, we're also on the edge because of the medical scenario, all the medical stuff that's going on in the background, and that's also, some parents might have a long-term, for the rest of their life, they might have challenges to face. So, yeah.
Some really good insights there, Aaron. What about all the dads that are currently in hospital? Do you have any words of advice to help them get through their state?
Be upfront. Just be upfront with your partner. That's the most important one. I know it's the hardest one as well. Get in there, roll your sleeves up, get involved, because the more you learn, the more relaxed you can be, especially when your monitors start screaming. You can actually understand, well, that's because of X, Y, Z. You don't actually start panicking and want to hit the code blue alarm. Get in there, do the cares, roll your sleeves up, take as much in as you possibly can, because when you get home, you're by yourself essentially. So, probably the biggest one is be upfront, find a group such as what we're running, turn to, or your wife, and just look after your mental health, because when you get home, you hit the ground running.
Yeah, really, really good advice there, Aaron. And thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today and sharing your experiences with us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
And to complete our Q&A for today, I'd like to welcome Nadine Griffiths. Nadine is a clinical nurse consultant at the Grace Centre for Newborn Intensive Care at the Children's Hospital at Westmead, and a NICAP trainer from the Australasian NICAP Training Centre. Nadine has worked in paediatric healthcare setting for over 23 years. As an educator and trainer for NICAP, she facilitates education to support hospitals in creating supportive environments for families. The team at NIDCAP Australasia have created with Life's Little Treasures on the development of products and services, including our 2 sibling colouring in books, My Brave Journey and My Colourful Journey, and the Little Readers Readathon. Welcome, Nadine. Thanks so much for joining us today. Let's start by hearing a little bit about your role as a clinical nurse coordinator and the importance of developmental care and family-centred care. How do these models of care improve the outcomes for premature and sick babies?
So as a clinical nurse consultant, my role is to work closely with families, staff, babies, and to look at how we can support them within the hospital setting and beyond the hospital setting as well, matching this against evidence-based practice so that we can support outcomes for the longer term. In terms of developmental care and how it works within the neonatal intensive care unit, we are concerned about the NICU because babies are exposed to something that they wouldn't be otherwise exposed to in terms of their developmental trajectory. So that means that they're exposed to noise, light, activity, including pain, sometimes separation from their parents. And this is not what they expect in terms of their developmental trajectory. And this can result in pain and stress, and this can affect their longer term development. So developmental care is really about buffering against the effects of the neonatal intensive care unit and what we can do to support this baby and family, and importantly, individualised care to support their longer term outcomes. And in terms of the evidence to support developmental care, there's lots of research evidence over the last 40 years, and we know that it can help reduce your length of stay, improve feeding outcomes and weight gain. It can also support neurodevelopmental outcomes in the first 24 months of life. And importantly, it can help support parents and infants in terms of their bonding and attachment.
Amazing. And what about family-centred care? Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, family-centred care is really where within a neonatal or a paediatric focus, we really are talking about their parents and their baby at the centre of everything we do, and that the hospital and the healthcare workers essentially are operating around them. So within a family-centred care model, we are really pushing that the family are a unit, and that's really important for babies because when you're an adult, you can make decisions for yourself that your family may or may not be involved with, whereas when we're caring for families in a hospital, we see the parents as an extension of the baby. So we're looking after you as a single unit.
Yeah, amazing. We're so lucky to have the medical care that we have in Australia, and we know that the team works so hard to support us as parents to participate in baby's care and find those special moments to bond with our baby. How important is it for families to connect with other families that have had the lived experience of prematurity, like the programs that we offer through Life's Little Treasures?
Well, you guys have actually done research on this where you've evaluated what parents want, and you found that 100% of parents actually wanted to be notified about peer support. What we know is that increasingly within neonatal intensive care units, that peer support is recommended as a foundational element of family-centred care and developmentally supportive care. And really the reason that occurs is because we know it makes a difference. So we know that peer support when you're within the neonatal intensive care setting helps increase parent confidence, helps support their self-esteem. It actually helps support their capacity to have resilience in terms of the NICU or neonatal unit experience. And it helps them see that someone's walked a similar journey, and this lived experience offers them confidence that they can move forward with that. And really, there's models of care now that are called neonatal intensive parenting unit, and that's in the United States. And that's where we're talking about the fact that we're actually supporting an intense period of parenting, and we're really, really focused on those relationships and how we can support them. So I think peer support is an incredible component within the NICU, but it also extends beyond the NICU, because I think there's this assumption that you go home and there's this safety net that supports you, and often there is, but there is also gaps in that safety net. And so you still have questions around feeding, and you still have questions about, is this normal for my baby? And you still have questions around, what should I be doing? What shouldn't I be doing? And I think that Life's Little Treasures Foundation is a great place for parents to ask questions where they're not going to feel like this is a silly question to ask, and they might be reluctant to ask that question.
Yeah, so true. That's often when we find families reach out to access support from us, when they leave the comfort of hospital and the medical care, and the wheels fall off, and they come to us to ask those questions and find support from people that have had the lived experience. Nadine, I'll finish on the same question I've asked the other speakers. I'm keen to get your perspective as a health professional. Today on World Prematurity Day, what would you like the broader community to know about prematurity, and how can we better support those families currently in hospital?
I think that the messaging around World Prematurity for me focuses around 3 separate things. So we know that 1 in 10 babies is born prematurely, no matter what country you are in the world. However, this is still not well known within the broader community. And so we have a real job in terms of raising awareness around the fact that this affects a lot of families each year. This may not mean that you end up in a neonatal intensive care unit or special care nursery, but there are impacts of this being born prematurely. So every week, every day that you are born early has an effect on you and what you will achieve in terms of your trajectory of your life. I guess the other thing is that 48,000 families are affected and do cross the threshold of a special care nursery or a neonatal intensive care nursery. While that sounds a big number, it is actually a small number in terms of health. And what that means is we are under-resourced and under-promoted as a provision of healthcare. And so that means we are a very small fish in a very large pond. And so that means that our voice in terms of advocacy may not be present. And so it's an opportunity to raise a profile around the fact that not only is the caregiving that happens in a neonatal intensive care important, and it's unique, it's technically highly skilled. What happens in those walls happens not often anywhere else in a hospital, apart from other critical care services. And what that really means is that we need to shine a spotlight on the fact that what happens in this period of life sets you up for the rest of your life. And the European Foundation for the Care of the Newborn Infant, EFCNI, they presented at Brussels at the European Parliament. And the professor, when he was presenting there, said what happens in what you do at the first part of a person's life sets them up for the next 100 years. And that's thinking about the fact that these people will live for 100 years. So what we do now affects not only that individual and their family, but it also affects society for the next 80 years. So we really need to invest in the start. There needs to be a lot more investment within neonatal services across Australia, even though other countries would say we're quite well resourced. And the final thing I would say is there's this lack of awareness that just because when you go through a neonatal intensive care unit, I think families come around you, your family, extended family comes around you and supports you and says, this is horrible, this is a terrible time. But there's this lack of awareness that the effects of the NICU may last with you for a lifetime. We know that you're much less likely to be severely disabled, which is great and is a credit to our healthcare system. But there still may be everyday functionality that affects this person for the rest of their lives. And I think having the community know that might help channel resources and a focus on what we do and why it's important.
Such amazing insights there, Nadine. Thank you so much. For today. It's always lovely talking to you, and thanks so much for taking the time to talk to us.
Thanks for this opportunity, Karen.
Before I hand you back to Felicia, I wanted to firstly thank Michelle and Aaron. As parents of premature babies ourselves, we know how challenging it can be to revisit these stories, and I thank them for being so courageous and sharing some of their most vulnerable moments with us today. To Nadine, thank you for the important perspective you bring as a health professional and sharing some thoughtful insights into today's discussion. I'll now hand you back to Felicia. Thanks, everyone.
Those babies are all incredibly cute, I'm sure you will agree. Now, before we launch our new pilot program today, I want to share with you a few plans that Life's Little Treasures Foundation have for 2022. First of all, we are going to concentrate on building even stronger partnerships and developing new partnerships. LLTF is not government funded, so we rely heavily on our generous partners, and we'll be concentrating on enhancing our current relationships by introducing new projects and marketing initiatives. We'll also be looking for new partnerships with companies that share our values. We want to deliver more products and services to family. We currently have relationships with 149 hospitals across Australia, and these hospitals help to disseminate information and our products and services. But with 48,000 premature and sick babies being born every year in Australia, we want to reach more vulnerable families. So we've set ourselves a target of 15%. We're going to need to expand our volunteer program to increase our services. That means finding more volunteers like Aaron, who is a peer support volunteer, and also more volunteers to help us in the administration area. We want to concentrate on raising awareness of prematurity and also of Life's Little Treasures Foundation. So days like Walk for Prems and World Prematurity Day are opportunities to not only raise awareness of prematurity and the journey that families go on, but they also help to raise awareness of our organisation and how we support families. We'll be delivering strong marketing and media campaigns and working closely with our partners, hospitals and families to make the most of every opportunity. Technology will play a big part in our future. A new website that is easy to navigate is on the cards, and an enhancement of our database and practices is also a priority. I could talk all day, but I'm conscious of time. I do want to say how proud we are of our corporate partners, Baby Bunting, Britex Safe and Sound, Harker, Medela, Oricom and Early Birds. They are also very committed to supporting families of premature babies by developing and promoting products specifically designed to cater for the smallest members of our community. I must also mention some of the trusts and foundations that support us. The Dat Family Foundation, the Gourlay Family Trust, Smart Group Foundation, and the Stan Perron Charitable Trust. These groups support different programs and ensure we can deliver what we need to. Our trust and foundation support, combined with the collaborative nature of our partnerships, allows us to amplify the positive impact we can have on the lives of families with premature and sick babies. Today, we are launching a special project. We are piloting a new breast pump program, which will be supported by Medela. To talk to us about the program, I welcome Jarrod Percy, Managing Director of Medela in Australia. Welcome, Jarrod, to today's event. It's lovely to have you along. First of all, today, would you mind just sharing with us a little bit about your own personal preemie baby story?
Yeah, hi Felicia. It's really great to be with you and the team from Life's Little Treasures Foundation on this World Prematurity Day. And as you just mentioned, Wendy, my wife, and I have a unique personal experience with prematurity as well. So, our identical twin daughters, who are now 22, were born prematurely as a result of getting twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome in utero. My wife got really sick at 29 weeks pregnancy. It turned out she had quite bad preeclampsia. And because they were what they called monochorionic diamnionic, sharing the same placenta, so they had one outer membrane but their own inner sacs, as it were, they were at risk of this twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome. So unfortunately, that did end up developing, and one baby ended up growing faster than the other. So that's a risky situation. So just pre-30 weeks, Madison and Taylor were born and spent 9 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit in Auckland, what was the National Women's Hospital, and they were about 1,100 grams when they were born. So what a scary time, but an exciting time. And for many of the families you work with, it's the emotional highs and lows, right? But yeah, we know it well.
Absolutely. And I'm sure at age 22, they're still living at home and probably driving you crazy now. But it's lovely to hear that they made it through those 9 weeks and have grown to, strong young women, I'm sure. Why don't you tell us a little bit, Jarrod, about what's been happening at Medela lately?
Yeah, great, fantastic. And thanks, Felicia. And here at Medela, we're very excited because this year, several things have happened. The big one is throughout this year, we've been celebrating 60 years since the formation of the business or the founding of the business by our founder, Mr. Ollie Larsen in Zug in Switzerland. founded the company 60 years ago. So there's been a whole range of anniversary celebrations throughout the year. It's, I say every year, it's an exciting time to be with Medela, but what I love is we continue to evolve, and we always want to be staying close to our families and our patients to develop, products and solutions that really solve the problems that come up throughout the day.
Well, 60 years is certainly impressive, and we're very glad to have Medela in Australia as well. I guess I might just take a moment now, Jarrod, just to talk a little bit about the program and how it's going to work so everyone knows what's going to happen. But what has actually originated is that Medela have come to us and they're going to sponsor us and donate 120 personal breast pump units to mothers who are in need of establishing their milk supply, which is phenomenal. That has a value of around $50,000 worth of product. So we're so grateful to Medela for doing that. What that means, though, is that we will be working with 4 tertiary hospitals across Australia to pilot a program where mothers that are having troubles establishing their milk supply are able to take one of these units home with them when they leave the neonatal nurseries, obviously, to head home. So we're very excited about it. But Jarrod, I guess just for everyone here today, would you just like to share with us why you felt so passionate about getting involved in this project?
Yeah, great, Felicia. And look, I've got 2 responses to that. One is, it really is a great honour and pleasure for us to partner with Life's Little Treasures Foundation in the fantastic work that you do to support families and their prematurity journey, often a journey that they didn't anticipate, right? So, we all, when we have our babies, we all think it's going to be this way, and more often than not, it ends up being a different way. And particularly with prematurity, it ends up going off on a completely different track. So hats off to you and the team and the work that you're doing. So for us, we're always wanting to try and do more. We know the need is great. But it was really the discussion you and I had, goodness, I can't recall, quite some time back now, where we started to throw around some ideas and we came up with this program. And it was a bit of a light bulb moment and also a little bit embarrassing because, as I've mentioned to you, we also thought, well, why haven't we been doing this sooner, right? Our goal is to make sure that when mum, has her baby, and normally with a premature birth situation, her body rapidly goes from being pregnant to then needing to lactate. And that needs a lot of support, which they get through very, very talented healthcare professionals in the hospital, lactation consultants, midwives, and other clinicians and consultants that will support them to establish their milk supply and get baby feeding at the breast, which is what we want. So what we want to do is make sure that when mum leaves that environment and she doesn't necessarily have all those supports, that she has the best technology that she can to support her maintenance of her milk supply, to make sure that she can continue to give her own mother's milk to her precious baby for as long as she possibly can. So through the breast pump program, we want to make sure that we give the best technology that we can, make that available to families that are in need, that might not be able to otherwise get hold of something. We started 120, Felicia, but a really great problem for us both to have is if the program is really oversubscribed and you're knocking our door down saying we need more, in which case we would absolutely make sure we go away and find more, because it's such an honour to serve Australia's mothers, babies and their families in this capacity.
We're so grateful to you. It's going to be a magnificent program. We're very excited about it starting, and I know that our products and services team are talking to the hospitals now, arranging all of the bits and pieces about how it's going to roll out. But I guess we've now officially launched the program. So thank you so much, Jarrod, for being with us today and for sharing your perspectives and also, your personal story as well. We're really grateful for your time.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Felicia. And again, thank you very much to you and the foundation for the work that you do in supporting the families, and to all the families that are watching this today, happy World Prematurity Day.
We're now going to head over to Matt Spencer, CEO and Managing Director of Baby Bunting, who is in store today. He's going to tell us a little bit about their successful 8-week campaign for Walk for Prams and about what they've got planned for World Prematurity Day. He's then going to draw the prizes for today's event. Thanks so much for joining us, Matt.
Thanks, Felicia. At Baby Bunting, our core purpose is to support new and expected parents in the early years of parenthood. So we're so proud to partner with organisations that are committed to helping families navigate the challenges of this journey. Life's Little Treasures Foundation is dedicated to supporting the families of sick and premature babies and providing the information, the advice and the support they need to make a difference to them and their child. For the past 6 years, Baby Bunting has proudly supported the foundation and its incredible efforts to connect families all over Australia through the annual Walk for Prems. This event is dedicated to raising money and awareness for premature and sick babies, and this year we are thrilled to have been the presenting partner for the 6th consecutive year. This year we raised over $300,000 and are excited to see the funds allocated to so many important initiatives, including the Special Care Nursery booklet, Little Bag of Calm and the Precious Prem Pack. Today, on World Prematurity Day, our team members across our 61 stores are wearing a touch of purple to recognise these families and the struggle they've faced in caring for a baby born prematurely. Today, we also acknowledge the challenging, often life-changing experience and the impact this can have on every day ahead. To mark World Prematurity Day, we're giving back to our wonderful community with special gifts generously donated by Life's Little Treasures Foundation's partners. As Felicia highlighted, Life's Little Treasures Foundation is proud to partner with brands and organisations that share similar values and offer products and services specifically for premature babies and their families. It is my pleasure to draw and announce the prize winners. The winner of the first prize, the $1,000 Baby Bunting voucher, is Catherine Semler, whose baby is 7 weeks into her stay at the NICU, born at 23 weeks. The second prize, the winner of the Britax Safe and Sound Unity Isofix baby capsule, is Anna Danielson, who has registered for this event in honour of her 6-week-old Premi, born at 27 weeks. Third prize, the winner of the Medela Swing Maxi Double Electric Breast Pump, is Zoe Carmen. And finally, the fourth prize, the winner of the 2 on-the-go Haka prizes are Srijana Rejmi Paul Bordell and Helen Burgess. Thank you to everyone who entered, and congratulations to all of the winners, and we hope you enjoyed these prizes. We hope you continue to support the Life's Little Treasures Foundation and the wonderful work they do. Back to you, Felicia. Thank you.
Well, that brings us to the end of our event today. And on behalf of Karen and myself, the board and the team of Life's Little Treasures Foundation, a huge thank you must go to our wonderful guest speakers today. Michelle, Aaron and Dean, thank you so much for giving up your time to join us. Thank you also to our corporate partners, Baby Bunting, Britax, Medela and Haka, and of course, Oricom and Early Birds as well. Most of all, we'd like to thank everyone out there attending who are part of our families and our health professionals from our hospitals. We know you have taken the time today to commemorate World Prematurity Day, and we really appreciate it. Please take a photo of yourself today wearing purple or a World Prematurity Day pin and post it on socials. You can send it to us at #WPDLLTF. So from Karen and myself and the team at LLTF, thanks for joining us.
Goodbye and stay safe.